Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Well, we are approaching the end of rhubarb season here, and I wanted to have one last taste of this tangy seasonal treat before it's over for another year. Today we will be making these absolutely scrumptious rhubarb frangipane galettes. A galette is simply a fancy French term for an open-faced single-crust tart or pie. This one is made with a sweet buttery pastry that is filled with a layer of almond frangipane and then topped with chunks of tangy fresh rhubarb. It's crispy, nutty, and sweet with just the right amount of tartness from the rhubarb. You are going to love this. Let's get started. So the first step to making our rhubarb galette is to make a beautiful butter pastry. I have 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. There's no need to sift it, just make sure it's... I have a pinch of salt, a teaspoon of sugar. I'm just going to give that a little twirl with my pastry blender, and 1/2 cup of cold butter that I've cut into cubes. It should be cold because you want the pastry to be nice and flaky. And the butter will, as it melts in the oven, it will blow the pastry apart into nice flaky layers. So just cut this in until it resembles fine crumbs. You can also do this in a food processor. Just blitz it all up, and that's very quick and easy. But every so often it's nice to do things by hand, just to get the feel of things. Get your grandma on. Okay, we're almost there. This is what it looks like now. Just flour and small bits of butter. Just one more dance around the bowl. Clean off the tines of your pastry blender. Get all that butter in there. More butter, more better. Now I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of ice water. I put some ice in a container and filled the container with water, and then I just had that stashed in the fridge while I cut the butter into the flour. Now I'm going to measure out 1/4 cup of the icy cold water, and I'm going to gradually dribble that in. Start by dribbling 1/3 of it in, and just use a spatula to stir the flour from the sides of the bowl. Another 1/3. I think I will need the whole 1/4 cup. And at this point, the best tool is your hand. Just squeeze that together. I cook a lot by sight and feel. And at this point, I think that's still a little bit too dry, so I'm going to add just a touch more water. Just a touch. That was maybe a tablespoon. And to finish bringing this together, I'm going to take a piece of plastic wrap and lay this out on the counter. You don't have to use plastic wrap, you can just dump this out on your countertop, but I find this is an easy way to get the pastry to all come together. So set the bowl aside. You've got this all dumped on your plastic wrap. Take each corner and just start pulling it in with your fists. Whoops. Don't lose any of that butter. Take the opposite corner. Do the same thing. Now from the sides. And the moisture from the water, and as the butter softens a bit while you're working it, it will all come together into a nice disc of pie crust. Your hands don't get dirty, although mine are a little dirty. Just keep pulling and punching until you have everything nicely incorporated. You're going to see some large specks of butter in there and some small specks. And when the pastry bakes, that's going to make the most beautiful flaky crust. So I think that's pretty good. So I'm going to set that aside to rest a little bit. Resting will allow the flour to hydrate. We'll finish making the other components of the galette. So just wrap this up, set it aside in a cool spot. If your kitchen is very warm, you'll want to stick this in the fridge. So in the same bowl that you made your pastry in, no need to wash it out, we're now going to make the almond frangipane filling. So I have a cup of almond flour. This is simply ground almonds. You can get this pretty much everywhere now. It's usually sold in the gluten-free flours section. You can make your own almond flour by just grinding up blanched almonds in the food processor, but it's easy to buy it already ground. So this is 1 cup into the bowl. And I have some sugar, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of soft butter, room temperature butter, an egg, and to amp up the almond flavor of this filling, almond extract. Oops. Just a teaspoon. That'll add a delicious taste to this little tart. And then just mix this up. You should have a nice smooth paste. The smell of the almond extract is very nice. So that's the consistency we're looking for. Just a nice smooth paste. And that will make a beautiful almond layer between the pie crust and the rhubarb. So we'll just let that sit at one side while we prepare the rhubarb. Okay, so the next step in our rhubarb frangipane tart is, of course, rhubarb. And I'm lucky enough to have a nice rhubarb patch, so I went out last evening and picked this rhubarb because I knew I was going to bake this morning. So it's all washed and cleaned. I'm just going to trim off these ends. And then we'll cut these into nice lengths. Oh, I don't know if I told you how much rhubarb. I just go by fistfuls, but I guess this would probably be about 1 pound. And it doesn't matter if they're all the same length. We'll arrange this in a nice, pretty fashion on top of the pie crust and the almond filling. Okay, so there's our rhubarb all chopped. Gorgeous color. I love that combination of red and pink and green. So next, we're going to put 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. That's going to help absorb any excess juice. 50 milliliters or 1/4 cup of white sugar. And the freshly grated zest of 1 orange. So just give this a quick stir so that everything is well coated with the cornstarch and sugar, and the orange zest is well distributed. So we'll just set this aside while we roll out our pastry, and now you can preheat your oven to 350 Fahrenheit. Okay, so now to prepare your pans for baking. This galette can sometimes run, so I think it's always a good idea to line your baking pans with parchment paper. So I've got two smallish, I guess medium-sized cookie sheets. And you can just set those to one side while you roll out your pastry. Okay, so our pastry has been hanging out in the fridge, and I'm just going to unwrap it. And I think it's sometimes nice, you can make this one large galette, which just means an open-faced pie. And the reason why I like galettes is because I'm not that great at baking pies, but a galette always looks rustic and beautiful, and it's easier to do than trying to fiddle around in a pie dish, a pie plate. So I'm thinking today, rather than bake this all as one galette, which you certainly can do, I'm going to make 4 small ones. Because we're having some friends over, and I think it's kind of nice to have individual desserts. Now, someone's going to have 2 larger pieces unless I rectify my my math here. So I'm just dividing this into 4. That looks a little more even. So I'm making 4 balls of dough. Sprinkle our board lightly with flour. This will help things not stick. And shape this into a little disc. Dusting on the top of that. Also get a little flour on your rolling pin. This is an ancient rolling pin. I think it belonged to my mother's mother. I'm very happy to have it. I think it gives me good luck because both my grandmother and my mother were excellent bakers. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, and if your pin sticks to the pastry at all, just give it another light dusting of flour. Start rolling away from you. And that looks like a good thickness. And just feel it with your hand and make sure that everything is even. That seems a little thick there. Just one more pass of the roller should do it. Okay, so we'll just set that one to one side. Dust our board again. Take out another piece of the dough. Lightly dust our pin. Just always try and keep your pie crust moving on the board so you can assure yourself that it's not sticking. And I cut this piece of pastry dough into 4ths, but if you wanted to make smaller galettes, you could do 6. I think if you were making this as the whole galette, you would serve 6 people. I like a nice, generous galette for company. If it were just us at home, I think I would probably make 6. Get a little bit more mileage out of it. So there's my second one. Dust the board, dust the pin. This one's a little oddly shaped, but you'll see when we put these together, that does not matter one bit. That's the nice thing about making galettes instead of pie. It tastes the same. There are no mistakes when you make a galette. It's very rustic, easy. You could assemble these in the morning, stick them in the fridge, and then just bake them as your company is coming. And they're absolutely gorgeous right out of the oven with a scoop of ice cream or some loosely whipped cream. If your dough does stick to the board, I highly recommend one of these bench scrapers. And you can easily release it from the board. And if you have any little cracks, just gently press them together to repair them. So I have 2 pans prepared like this with parchment paper. And I'm going to just quickly pick up my pastry. And we'll do 2 on each pan. Our beautiful, beautiful frangipane filling. So make sure you have equal portions for each little galette and use your spoon to mark out guesstimate fourths. So there's 1/4. 1 blob there. Another here. I'll get my second pan onto the parchment paper. That one is still giving me some trouble, but and this is delicious, so scrape out as much of it from your mixing bowl as you can so as not to waste one little bit. And we'll just gently press this down. Hang on to the pastry if you have to. Spread that into a little thin layer. Now this is going to melt down a little bit when it bakes, so you don't have to be too fussy about this. We're just trying to smooth it out into a nice layer. Same with this one. Finally, this one. We have our rhubarb that has been sitting to one side. And let's make nice little designs here. And obviously you don't have to fuss with this too much. I just want it to look pretty because we're having company. And I would place the rhubarb so that there's about 1 inch of space around all sides. Here's a green one. And if some of your pieces are too long, you'll find a shorter one. Do it like a little jigsaw puzzle. Two more pieces. Where to put them? That one could fit there, and that one looks like it's calling out for something right there. If they don't look even, just assess your situation, and I think this little guy would fit nicely there. Now you'll see in the mixing bowl that you had for your rhubarb, you've got this nice dusting of orange zest, sugar, and cornstarch. Take that and sprinkle it over everything. The combination of orange zest and rhubarb is a lovely, lovely taste combination. So for our next trick, we're going to bring up the edges of the galettes and tuck them around the rhubarb. And you don't have to be fussy with this. Bring it up in a little hug. And if your rhubarb is in the way, you can just tuck it like that on top. You don't have to let your rhubarb boss you around. So just press it down as best you can. And this is all going to get juicy and yummy in the oven. And some of the juice is going to run and some of it is going to bubble out of the sides of the galette. That is a-okay. It's all going to taste delicious. You will see. Just keep tucking. And if any little pieces are giving you trouble, just move them. Like that one I think I'll put there. Just give it a little hug with the palms of your hands. And finally we have galette number 4. One last little hug for good luck. Finally, you don't have to do this, but I always like a little brushed egg. For some reason I can't find my pastry brush, so I'm just going to use my fingers and brush this all around the edge. Your fingers are the best utensil in the kitchen. Don't worry if some of the egg goes into the tart. Try not to, obviously, but if it does, it's no big deal. There. One final step, and this is a little tribute to my grandmother. Every pie she made, she sprinkled the crust with a little bit of sugar, and it made everything such a crackly delight. And so now I do the same. If you have some of that beautiful coarse sugar, that's also nice. But I'm just using plain old white sugar. That's what she had. She didn't have any special ingredients. She just used what she had. And that's what I'm doing too. So these are going to bake in a 350 oven for 35 to 45 minutes. But my oven runs very hot, so I'm going to start checking this at 30 minutes. And we'll take it from there. Goodbye, little pies. Okay, let's see if these are done. Oh yes, they definitely are. Very nice. The pastry is nice and golden, and the frangipane filling has puffed up inside, and the rhubarb is all juicy and delicious. So we'll let these cool on the pan for about a half an hour. I would recommend serving them warm. They're perfectly enjoyable at room temperature or even fridge temp, but I think warm, since they are warm, we should enjoy them. So when it comes time to serve, I'm going to just whip up some heavy cream very loosely with a little bit of sugar and vanilla and spoon that over the top, and we'll give these a taste and see what they're like. So to serve, you can either use vanilla ice cream or a little bit of loosely whipped heavy cream. That's what I'm doing today. I don't have any ice cream, but ice cream would be great in this. And just sweeten it slightly with a little bit of sugar. That's about 1/4 cup of heavy cream and about a teaspoon or so of sugar and a tiny splash of vanilla. I'm just going to whip this. You get a little arm workout with this. You can obviously do this with an electric mixer, but it's just as easy to do it with a hand whisk. That's a nice consistency. I just want a little bit of cream to dress the galettes. And I think a little powdered sugar might be nice. A nice spoonful of our cream. How does that look? I need to taste it. So the pastry is beautiful and flaky and crisp. Get a little cream on there. Pardon me while I take a bite. So good. Yeah, the pastry is beautiful and flaky. And I'm not sure if you can see inside, but there's the pastry. There's that beautiful layer of almond frangipane, and then the rhubarb. So you have the sweet almond layer and the tart rhubarb layer and the flaky pastry. And it's just a delicious combination. And while we have fresh rhubarb still, what a way to use it up. So good.
So, what do you think? Are you going to give this a try in your own kitchen? Please drop me a note in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoy baking and cooking as much as I do, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below so you won't miss any of my fresh seasonal recipes. I post a new video every week. Well, as always, thank you for watching. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and tuck into this gorgeous dessert. I hope to see you here again next week. Bye for now.